Today is the fourth talk in a series. That this month I've been using the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And we first to be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, and all of a sudden I forgot all of them. I've been doing this. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. How could I forget that one? I had so much fun with that one last week, spelling assume. For many of you who know, if you spell out the assume and put the appropriate spaces, you get ASS space UM. You space me, meaning that when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And what that means is when you make assumptions, you get the wrong ideas because you're afraid to ask. And that comes down to always doing your best, which is the 4th agreement. And the 4th agreement is about always do your best because sometimes we have things that keep us. Sometimes they're fears, sometimes they're judgments. There are different things. Whatever it is inside of you, you are the person that decides what keeps you from doing your best. But what happens when you always do your best, you get rid of the internal judge. If you heard that in Odie's, one of her quotes, she was talking about that. When you always do your best, there's no one to judge you. There's nothing to be done because you've done your best. And usually the person that judges you the most harshly is yourself, right? And so, of course, many of you know that I love the Science of Mind reading, and this Science of Mind daily guides have been Reverend Judy Morley, who I personally love very much. I think she's a tremendous soul. She had a thing in there last week about embrace the shadow. And she quoted Sitting Bull. Inside of me, there are 2 dogs. One is mean and evil, and the other is good. And they fight each other all the time. When asked which one wins, I answer, the one I feed the most. Oh. And that's what happens to us inside of us. It's our own personal dialogue that goes on. How we react to situations, how we look at the world, how we look at the events in our lives is which dog are you feeding inside of you? Which one are you going to release and let go? I also like her comment during this thing because for those of you who have been in Centers for Spiritual Living and New Thought for a while, you know this is true. She says, if Science of Mind has a dogma, it is that we always deny anything negative and look only on the bright side. This works great when things are going well, but it fails to take into account the full spectrum of human experience. Because that's what happens, right? Some would say when the rubber meets the road. I say when life shows up right here, all of a sudden you're tested and you're reminded of what beliefs internally still need to be healed. Because that's for what it's all about. Because if we're here to live a life of joy and to be happy, what do? We have to really get ready to let go of anything that keeps us from doing that. When we do our best, we don't judge ourselves. And I was thinking about that last week. Somebody asked me what I thought, something about the talk. And I said, I felt it was a little flat. That was my personal assessment. But I didn't hang on to that because that was the first feeling I've had in over a year of doing talks here. Normally I feel really enthused and livened up. And it felt a little flat, but I had done my best. So I was able to just let it go. It was whatever it was. And what I realized, I had a couple of people later say, oh, I really like this part of it. I never know what you're going to hear. What I do is I trust, and I always do this little prayer during the meditation piece, is that I trust and turn over to the divine the talk. I've done all the work. I've done the preparation. What comes out of my mouth may not be what I prepared. What you hear may not be what comes out of my mouth. It's magic. It really is. Because my prayer is that what you came here to hear, you hear and you embody. Because it's all about you. I'm just the instrument. But I do get to do what I really love to do. And because I get to do what I love to do, I really do my best. Miguel says in this, always do your best, Everything is alive and changing all the time. It's so interesting that we all want to grow. We believe we're in an expanding universe that's forever growing. And yet, what do we resist? Change. We don't like to leave the familiar. We don't like to step off into the unknown, and go into that new place. But that's the only thing certain is change. It has to be that way. We're ever growing. Our body is growing. Our cells are growing. And isn't that a wonderful thing that our cells are rejuvenating themselves? There's a story in here about getting enlightened, which I love. And I want to only read it to you because I don't want to get it wrong. I love this story. It's a story of a monk. And I've heard different versions of this story. But there was a man who wanted to transcend his suffering. So he went to a Buddhist monk. And he asked the master to help him. And he said, "Master, if I meditate 4 hours a day, how long will it take me to transcend?" The master looked at him and said, "About 10 years." And the guy said, "Well, how about if I meditate 8 hours a day? How long will it take me to transcend?" And the master said, 20 years. And he said, "Why? How could that be?" He said, "Because you're not here to sacrifice your joy of life. You're here to live, to be happy, and to love. You can do your best. If you can do your best in 2 hours of meditation, but you spend 8 hours instead, you will only grow tired, miss the point, and you won't enjoy your life." Many of us think that if we just double our efforts, things will happen better. But the thing that I've learned myself, for me, is that when I can be in that state of being, which is that allowing the divine to touch me to my very soul, that more growth happens in an instant than all the hours of dedication, because I'm open to receive. And so I'll share with you, I wasn't always this way, and I'm not always that way today, because some days I have a good day, and I'm on. And some days not so good, and I'm not. And it's okay, because I'm doing my best, wherever I am. But once about, I guess almost 20 years ago, I was doing some therapy. And yes, I've been to therapy. So what you see is a healed person from that aspect. At least one therapy. So anyway, I was at this therapist, and I said, "How long will it take me to get through this? When can you fix me?" Right? And she looked at me very reassuringly like the monk and said, "It could take a year. I don't know. But why don't we set up an appointment? You come every week." I said, "How about if I come twice a week? Can I be finished in 6 months?" I have to tell you, 2 years later, I was done. But that's what we want. You know, we live in this instantaneous world, this microwave world, where we stand in front of the microwave and say, "Hurry!" Because we want it right now. But sometimes just being still. One of my favorite quotes from the Bible is, "Be still and know that I am God." So when you're still, you let the divine come within you. And when you're still, you can do your best because you're your most authentic self. There's only you. You know, doing your best, you're going to have to live your life intensely. Now, for some of us, we would like to just kind of cruise. We want to put on autopilot, just kind of go through and take life as it comes. But when you're doing your best, you absolutely can enjoy life most fully because you're showing up as an authentic you. And you can cruise, but you're living intently because you're living it consciously. The theme for this year is to live this life with intention. It's to set your intention. Don't just aimlessly go down the road expecting the universe to deliver exactly what's inside you. that you are wanting, because it doesn't know until you express it. It would be like deciding to go from here to San Diego, never having gone there before, and just getting on the road and figuring out whether it was 78, 15, or what 52 or 56, and expecting to get there. The only one that would take you there is 15. All the others won't. You really have to give some intention to that. When you give some intention, you're really, really doing your best. You know, action is about living fully and listening to the way that we deny life. Because what happens sometimes is we listen to the internal judge of ourselves. We don't do our best because we say, oh, I don't feel well. Feeling well has nothing to do with doing your best. Really. It's all up to you. You can say, oh, well, you know, the speaker in front of me was just so much better than me. Has nothing to do with that. It's about the judgment. It's a judgment you have within yourself. And it's just like the Sitting Bull said, which dog are you feeding? You can feed that dog which says, I'm doing my best and no judgment. You can feed that dog that criticizes yourself. And it's really up to you. And they don't get quiet until you feed them. So, but one of the things that, for some of you who know about when I said a complaint-free world series, and I was wearing this purple bracelet, see if I can get it out. I don't think I can today. I haven't had change it for 2 weeks. Yay. I went 2 months, and then some of you know I took a road trip and had change it twice in the same weekend. But I'm up for it. But the important thing that I say about that is because what happens is, just like in a complaint-free world and you change your bracelet, just when you try to do your best, but some days you don't, you're not impeccable with your word. Some days you do make assumptions. And some days you do take things personally. You don't give up, you don't stop. Just start over. There's nothing wrong with starting over. I don't know where some of us got that idea that that was a failure. It's not. It's just a new breath. It's just like that saying that today is the first day of the rest of your life. So you can always choose again. Just unlike I switched the bracelet, you can switch again. Switch a mental thought. Know that, oh, okay, that was yesterday. Don't judge yourself and do your best to do it again now today. So if you fail, don't judge. It's okay, you broke your agreement. It's okay, it's not the end of the world. It's called life. It's called living. Don't be hard on yourselves. You just start over. You start anew. And about being hard on yourself, because we sometimes are pretty hard on ourselves when we fail. Judy quoted Thomas Edison who said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. He never looked at his light bulbs that did not work as failures. They were just experiments of what didn't work. That's the same way for us. When we find out what works for us as we're living in the 4 agreements. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said, refuse to think of failure or to doubt your own power. See only what you wish to experience and look at nothing else. Do you get that? See only what you wish to experience and look at nothing else. You just put the blinders on and let it go by. It doesn't appeal to you. You don't have to be involved in that drama. It's not your drama. It's somebody else's drama. Let them have their own learning. Let them be in it. You can go there. But failure is such a charged word for us. The idea of failing is so frightening that rather than take a risk, we'll not even try. And I'm saying if you do your best, it doesn't matter. If you do whatever you need to do to be prepared, and then do your best, and then let go of the result. Don't be attached. Don't go into the suffering. Don't go to the master and think you've got meditation for 2 hours a day to get transcending in 10 years. And in there, she ends with, embrace life. The fear of death follows from the fear of life. A man who lives fully is prepared to live, to die at any time. That was Mark Twain. And it reminded me, I was watching a program called The Voice. I don't know if some of you have heard it. And on there, they had a young man who sang this song, which took me back to maybe 10 years ago when it was released. And he sang a song is Live Like You're Dying. And so many of us forget that. We're afraid to take risk. But if you live like you're dying, you can go parachute sailing. You can do anything you really want. You can change careers. You can change locations. You can change anything in your life if you know you have one more life to live, one more day to live. It's your choice. And you always do your best. So this is Easter week coming up. And it's a Christian holiday where Easter, we have Good Friday, which is about death. And we have Sunday, which is about resurrection and rebirth. And so what I'm inviting you to do in a New Thought way is let those ideas and beliefs that no longer serve you die away. Don't wait for Good Friday. Just let them die away. And then let the rebirth come from day one, right here, right now, knowing that you are doing your best. And when you're doing your best, there is no one to judge you. There is no attachment. You just let go and let God. Thank you.